Hey guys, I'm Mono, and welcome to Update 10. The guys over at Black Matter were kind enough to give me the opportunity to record some footage of the Eastern Front and share it with you guys to give you a sneak peek of what's coming on July 27th when the game finally leaves early access. I also got to interview Max, the lead developer over at Black Matter. That interview was supposed to last 30 minutes, but we ended up talking for about 2 hours. So yeah, I'll have to trim that down for something a bit more digestible, so keep an eye out for that interview video in the near future. Everything that you're about to see here was recorded on the PTE servers that the team uses for testing, so a couple of disclaimers here. First off, there might be changes coming to Update 10 that weren't live yet on the PTE, and second, I was playing with a really high ping, given I was playing in European servers and I happen to live halfway across the world, so you might see some jittering that isn't really part of the normal Hell Loose experience. And also, matches on the PTE kinda suck because everyone is just running around doing their own thing, so between the lack of team play and the high ping, it was really hard to actually capture good gameplay. Alright, with that said, let's talk Update 10 because there's really a ton of new content and changes coming to the game. I won't be able to cover everything, but I will go over the most important stuff. As always, if you enjoyed the video, then please check out the rest of the channel and subscribe if you enjoyed the other videos as well. Alright, first off, let's talk maps. Stalingrad and Kursk are the two maps where you get to play as the Russians, but there's also an entirely new version of Samurai Du-Mont, which is drastically different to the version that we have now. And fortunately, I have no footage from that, but I did get to play several rounds in the other two maps, so let's talk about them first. Both maps are completely different from one another, and in fact, quite different from anything else that's currently in the game. Stalingrad is a vast wasteland of destroyed buildings and burned down houses, with mostly leveled terrain that's actually quite deceiving because it looks like you'll be spotting enemies from miles away, but that's not really the case. There's a huge amount of cover pretty much everywhere. Collapsed buildings, houses, factories, there's these lengthy walls, and just rubble all over the place. So you can actually hide your movements quite well, even though at the same time, there's also vast open areas that are gonna be really tough to push through. It's a prime map for snipers and for a more defensive playstyle, kinda like Hurtgen Forest. What surprised me the most about it actually is the amount of buildings with a functional interior that you can take position in. There seem to be more than in maps like Quarantine, and some of these are just massive. And they are brand new to the game. I've actually struggled to find any assets being reused from the Western Front maps. The houses are different, the barbed wire and entrenchments look different, the random stuff lying around looks different. It's all brand new to these new maps. As Max told me in the interview, the idea was to give the Eastern Front a distinctive look, and, well, mission accomplished, I guess. They've really nailed it. It looks completely different from every other map in the game. It's hard to tell how either of these maps will actually play because, as I said, on the PTE, everyone is kind of doing their own thing, but Stalingrad seems to be kind of a meat grinder, which, you know, as far as history goes, seems pretty accurate. Kursk is a completely different story. It's an open map, a really open map, with huge empty fields stretching as far as you can see, but it's not like Purple Heart Lane or Foy at all, because there's a massive network of trenches that completely hide you from view, and these stretch like halfway across the map, so you can flank a position entirely from within a trench line, running across 2 or 3 squares without ever leaving them. It's insane, and I can't wait to see how crazy the gunfights in these trenches are gonna be. The other key to Kursk lies in its terrain. At first glance, it looks like you can see the entire map from pretty much anywhere, but that is not the case at all. You get these slight elevation differences all over the place, which means there's actually a lot of blind spots that allow you to push into a point without being constantly shot at. Nothing else in the game even approaches this type of map design, and I just find it incredible. I think it's cool to get a completely new experience instead of getting something like Foy but with grass. Kursk in some areas almost feels like they are taking the trenches from Southern Edge on Foy and multiplying that by 100. It's going to be really interesting to see what strategies develop in both of these maps. As I said earlier, I don't have footage from Sainte-Marie Du-Mont, but it's gone from being a very open map to a cramped back alley of houses and small gardens that's gonna produce some of the most intense city fighting that I think we've seen in the game yet. That's pretty much all I can say because I only played 2 really short rounds in it, so, you know, I didn't get to do much looking around. Alright, now let's talk Russians, and let me tell you, that PPSH is one crazy weapon. I didn't manage to get any cool footage with it, but the suppression effect on it is crazy, and it's actually quite annoying if you're playing on the German side. In terms of accuracy and effectiveness, it seems like a harder to master MP40 maybe. It might be less accurate, but it makes up for it with the crazy fire rate. Some people say it's kind of OP, but I honestly haven't had enough time with it to see if that's the case. And, you know, playing with almost 300 millisecond ping is obviously less than ideal to try things out. The SVT and Mosin Nagant are, not surprisingly, very similar to the Gewehr 43 and Kar 98. I don't like the sights in the Mosin very much because it has kind of a thick post, which tends to block your target a bit, so I don't know, it just doesn't feel as good as the Kar does. The SVT, however, seems to be as good, if not better, than the G43, and I am totally fine with that because I love that weapon. Lastly, there's the DP27 machine gun, which I unfortunately haven't tried yet, so, you know, can't really say much about it. However, the real star of the show, at least for me, is the AT rifle. These have always been fun in every game, and it's no different here. However, I do need to talk a bit about the armor rework and changes to loadouts to give some proper context to this weapon. First off, the damage model for armor has changed quite a bit. You can now knock out a tank's engine entirely and render it completely immobile unless it gets repaired, which I actually managed to do after landing several hits to the back of a Tiger. How many shots do you need to destroy a Tiger or a Panther or to knock out the engine? I have absolutely no idea. It is possible to destroy them by shooting at their back, I know that, but the front seems to be pretty much impervious to damage from the AT rifle. And, you know, I wasn't able to accurately count the number of shots that I needed because other people were shooting as well, so yeah, I have absolutely no idea how effective the weapon actually is. But I can see this getting used from range to track a vehicle or knock its engine out, maybe not destroying it completely, but just making it absolutely miserable. The AT loadouts have also changed. There's 3 loadouts available. The first one is the typical AT loadout with the rifle and bazooka, or in the case of the Russians, the AT rifle. Both the second and third loadout do not have this weapon, the AT rifle or the bazooka. For the second loadout, you get some mines and a satchel charge, and for the third loadout, you get a hammer and a wrench to build an AT gun. This is a massive change to the AT class, and I'm kind of all for it, because it means less dudes running around with a bazooka that can take out pretty much anything at range like garrisons and OPs, but they also are adding versatility and choice to the role. You can now deploy and build your own AT gun instead of needing a second guy to hammer it, which is just awesome. And yes, the second loadout isn't going to be super OP as it was before with the bazooka and mines, but a kit with mines and satchels sounds like a ton of fun. As far as I can tell, no other loadouts have been changed, but there's definitely going to be more changes as they continue to add more weapons into the game, you know, in the next few updates. Alright, now let's talk about the Russian tanks, and I don't really know what to say here, to be honest. The T-34 is a fast medium tank, which kind of paves the way forward to what we can expect the Panzer IV to be in the future. What I mean is, tank balance in terms of heavies and mediums is kind of all over the place. Germans have basically 2 heavies, and the US has a mixed bag of Shermans. The 76 would be a proper heavy tank, but the Jumbo 75 is kind of in between. So the thing is, at some point the Panzer IV will be added to the German lineup, and then that will give them a proper medium tank. And after that, then you can have a proper armor balancing where you have your light, medium, heavy tanks, and you can adjust things like cost, availability, and, you know, basically have a defined role for each tank. The T-34 and the IS are the first real implementation of this idea, with the T-34 being fast and lightly armored, and the IS being this slow behemoth with great turret armor. The only time I managed to use the Russian recon tank, I got it stuck in a ditch, so, you know, I can't really talk too much about it. But yeah, it's a recon tank, it looks funky, and it's really fast. And lastly, we get to the meta and gameplay changes, and oh boy, there's a lot of them. Artillery dispersion has been increased, so, you know, it's gonna be harder to completely lock down an area with it. There's going to be less foliage, both in height and density, so yes, everyone, we did it. No more excessive grass. Garrisons and OPs now have a bit of glow and have a radio-like sound to them, making them easier to detect when you're close. And the idea behind this is, if you're looking for a garrison or OP, you might get unlucky and maybe the fate of the entire match gets decided because you failed to see the garrison that was right next to you. So yeah, now if you're looking for garrisons or OPs, you should be able to find them a bit easier. There's also a huge change coming to nodes. All nodes will generate a +10 of whatever resource, no matter where they are on the map. This is to prevent the winning team from getting more and more resources, while the losing team gets basically nothing. I love this change, but it also makes building nodes a bit unrewarding, so I doubt this will be the last change we see nodes getting. Crouch speed is now considerably slower than running, so you now have to choose between being slow and sneaky or being fast but more visible. Great change here, since right now there's literally no reason not to crouch run all the time. There's a lot of small tweaks like these that should make the game more consistent, balanced, and just better overall. I have to say, having played the PTE and having discussed many aspects of the game in my interview with Max, I am really positive about the future of Hell Let Loose. Update 10 seems to be like a great direction for the game, not only in terms of content. I mean, yes, the content is awesome, but the changes that they're making to the game mechanics themselves, I really like them. They are 100% on track with this update, and I can't wait to get to experience it with the entire player base. That's gonna be it for this video. Stay tuned for the interview videos, or video, which, I don't know, I still have to edit that. But yeah, stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.